Welcome to this lockdown learning video on reflexive verbs. If you've wondered how reflexive verbs work or what they are or why languages seem to need them, then this is the video for you. It's a short and straightforward introduction and explanation of how reflexive verbs tend to appear in various languages. So we shall be dipping across different languages, Italian and German, French, and even some Latin. So be prepared that some of it will be for languages that you might not know, but you'll hopefully be able to see some links and see that actually these things occur in lots of different forms, even in English as well. So let's go into the basics of reflexive verbs. They're called reflexive verbs because they kind of reflect the action back onto the person who's doing the action. Now, in English, we tend not to use them as much as you find them in French and German, perhaps in Italian. We tend to try to avoid them in certain situations, certain contexts, and this is possibly why English speakers find reflexive verbs a little bit awkward to deal with. Let's take this right down to the fundamental level so that we know what we're dealing with. We're talking about verbs, which, as you know, are doing words or being words or words of action. Now, verbs fall normally into two types, two categories. You've got intransitive verbs, and those are verbs which are just an action. They're just you're doing something, you're running, going. So verbs like to run, to go, to be, to travel, those are your intransitive verbs. The second category of verbs are transitive verbs. Now, transitive verbs, they're also actions, they're doing words, but they involve a second thing that's having the action done to them. So you've always got another thing involved. So words like reading often involve reading what? Reading a book, reading a magazine. Words like kicking, to kick, normally involves another thing, to kick a ball, to kick someone when they're down. Okay, so a second thing is involved. And so with transitive verbs, you've got the nominative, the subject doing the action, and the object or the accusative, who's the thing that's being done to. That's the object of that verb, if you like. And if you want an explanation of this in more detail, then check out my video on accusatives, which you'll find in my playlists. Now, here comes the crunch. Reflexive verbs are transitive verbs, but the action is being done to the same person that did the action. So literally, it's reflecting the action straight back to the person or the thing that was doing the action. In other words, they're doing the action to themselves. Good examples of these are things like in French, you say, I wash myself. I'm not washing the car, I'm not washing the dog, I'm not washing the dishes. They would all be the objects. In this case, I'm washing myself. In English, we don't say I wash myself, we say I'm having a wash, I'm having a shower, I'm having a bath. In French and a lot of other languages, they prefer to say it as it is. Who am I washing? I'm washing myself. Who am I showering? I'm showering myself. And because English tends not to like reflexives as much, we tend to use intransitive verbs, things like I get up in the morning. Sounds like an intransitive verb. I'm not doing it to anybody. Whereas actually in French it would be I'm getting myself up. Je me lève. Some of these reflexive verbs are again less obvious to us. If you say I'm in a hurry, I'm hurrying somewhere, again an English person thinks of that as just an intransitive verb. It's just I'm hurrying. In French and in German, you'll hear them say I'm hurrying myself. I'm moving myself on very quickly. Je me dépêche. Ich beeile mich. Another classic one is I feel. I feel happy, I feel sad. In French, I feel myself to be happy. And in German as well. Ich fühle mich sehr zufrieden, for example. Here's another strange one. To happen. Something happens. In French, il se passe. Ça se passe. What happened? Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? You hear them in Latin as well. The SE there turns up. Looks exactly the same as the French. He loves himself. The door opens itself, or the door is opened in English. In Latin, there's a further complication. They use this for a particular construction with indirect speech. He promised that he would help, so he promised himself to be willing to help. If you want more details on this, it's quite complicated in Latin, then check out the video on the use of se in indirect speech. A final point to notice if you're studying French and Italian, they tend to use, in the past tense, they tend to use to be as the auxiliary. So I woke up would be je me suis réveillé. I woke myself up. I went to bed. Je me suis couché. Si sono alzati. They got up. In German, they don't. In German, they just use haben or have. So, I hurried myself. Ich habe mich beeilt. I looked forward to something. Ich habe mich auf etwas gefreut. Good. I hope that explains reflexive verbs for you. I hope that makes some sense. If it did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. There's lots of other material for you to find in Lockdown Learning, my YouTube channel. Lots of stuff about languages and other things such as art history and ancient history and EPQs.